When I was young, I had notoriously bad judgment. And one particular instance stands out. It was my very first only car accident that I was responsible for. It was actually before I was even licensed. I was like 14 years old. We were on a family trip out to Rhode Island visiting my great-grandmother. And my stepsister and I, we were sleeping in the minivan, and the rest of the family was in the house. There's not enough beds. I have a really big family. And my dad says, in the morning, your cousin needs to get out. And so what you're going to do is you're going to just move the van straight back, let him out, and then move it straight back in. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, or so we thought. 5 a.m. comes, cousin comes and said, let me out. So I back up and I turn the wheel and I get out of his way. He goes on his merry way. So I did not pull straight back. Now, as I start pulling back into the driveway, my sister, who's in the co-pilot seat, she yells, car, 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 car. And for whatever reason, I freak out. I spaz out and I slam on the accelerator. And I ram into a car that is trying to pass me on the left side. So I careen off of him like a pinball, and then I careen into a parked car, and then I can't find the brake. And so the car just keeps going. And I make about a half block before I finally find the brake and get the car to stop. And just like that, I've hit multiple people and almost tried to like hit and run. Like it almost looked like I was trying to flee the scene. I didn't know where the brake was. And so I share all that with you because I think decision making is one of those skills. It's one of the most important skills that you can have, honestly. But unfortunately, school never really taught us how to make good decisions. And one of the fascinating things about making a decision is that we often look back and paint things in rose-tinted glasses. And we look with hindsight bias and say, I made this decision because of this and this and this. We justify it. And a lot of times we justify our decision based off of knowledge that we didn't even have at that moment, but knowledge that we have now looking back, right? So one of the tools that I found really helpful, I've been implementing for a couple of years now, is called a decision journal. And the idea behind this is when I'm making big life decisions, I sit down with this journal, whether that's like, I'm going to leave this job, or I want to move there, or I want to invest in this thing, whatever the decision is. And I try to write out how I'm feeling, my mood at that moment, and I lay out the situation. What is the problem that I'm trying to solve for? What are the decisions that I have to make? Like, what are the options I have to choose between? And then once I have that, I start going through each one of those decisions, and I come up with pros and I come up with cons. I come up with most likely scenarios and probabilities of outcomes. I say, what's worst case scenario if I go this path? What do I hope? What do I think is going to happen? And then I whittle it down to the decision that I ultimately make. Now, what's really valuable about this tool is it solidifies your thinking. So in that moment, you're likely to make a more objective, solid decision, but it also puts and memorializes this process so that in the future, when you look back, you see things that you couldn't have seen at the time and that you would probably gloss over if you were just to look back from your mind's eye. But having it on paper and looking at it, you start to realize maybe you're not as good at making decisions as you think, or a lot of the reasons that you came up with for making a decision ultimately didn't prove out. Now, that doesn't mean it was the wrong decision, might have proved out for other reasons, but reasons that you couldn't possibly have seen. And what I find valuable is that when you do this long enough, you start to notice patterns and trends about when I make this type of a decision, if I'm in that mood, it leads to this type of an outcome, or these are the types of blind spots I tend to have around these types of decisions. By doing that, you start to level up your judgment skills, which I wish that they had taught us how to do that in school. I wish they had spent more time on how to make a decision, how to think for ourselves rather than what to think or what to memorize. Unfortunately, they didn't, so we're gonna have to do the work ourselves. So I do think that a decision journal, I think it's a valuable tool that can serve everybody. If you want my template, shoot me a DM. I'm happy to share it with you. It's really simple. It takes about 30 minutes to go through a big decision, but I find the process to be, one, very valuable in the moment for helping make a better decision, and then two, to really gain that self-awareness later on when I reflect back on what that decision was, what my reasoning, my rationale was for making it. So hopefully that helps you. Shoot me a DM if you'd like that template. Otherwise, go make your own and start implementing a decision journal.